Hello and welcome back to Let's Race Jack 3. In the last episode we started off Act 2 and started off combating the various fronts that there are here in the war for Haven City. We met back up with Torn, joined up with the Southern Freedom League fighters, and then we bashed through the KG, so the Crimson Guard robot forces in the industrial zone, and now we are here behind enemy lines in the Metalhead portion of the city, ready to destroy some Dark Eco that they threaten to use to essentially cause havoc here in Haven, and that's obviously something that we definitely want to stop. So we're going to start here. We have 28 minutes 39 seconds because we went over once more in the last section, but we shouldn't, hopefully we won't go too far over this one. And no, yeah, I'm really looking forward to playing this section. Again, as I've said before, the Haven section of this game is really full of some of my favourite levels from this game. So anyway, we're going to start off in 3, 2, 1, go. So, essentially, what you have to do in this section is grind across these various tendrils, and then you can either jump up to them, or in most of the scenarios, what you actually have to do is you have to use those little, I don't really know what to call them. These things that blow air, essentially, and you have to use them to traverse around the area. So I like using tricks like that to essentially extend the amount of time you spend you spend in flight to ensure that you get over those electrical things that block your path along some of these grinding sections. So we're going to get down to here. We can now essentially use this to get up to the top. Lovely. Obviously, any time that you actually end up on the ground around here, you're going to be attacked by metalheads. Okay, we just got sent straight up in the air for some reason that time. Come on, fire me up. Lovely. So essentially, there's a pretty obvious path, as dictated by these random, sacs that obviously pump out air in some form. Lovely, there we go. And then the final section essentially involves jumping across these sort of fungoid-like protrusions down by the bottom here. Lovely, we get to here. And then we can break that. That's our final one. And, well, the final one aside from this last one. Once we break this, we're going to get a cutscene and a new power. So Dark Strike is a pretty cool ability. Essentially allows you to
You can kill
I forgot about those guys. So, essentially you get these small little metal heads, which are very annoying. So essentially, the idea of this section is you scoop up the green eco to destroy the these metalhead-infested plants. You can use the attack, so the circle attack on your jetboard to, I guess it's de-infect a wider area. Obviously, this is our first trip to Haven Forest. Come on, let me up. Oh, no. Thank you. This is quite a long mission, just because, but it's essentially getting you sort of preempting the fact that you're going to need to be ready to deal with an awful lot more of Haven Forest later on in the game. This is another rather long mission that is within this area. Lovely. Okay. So yeah, so Dark Strike is obviously, as it says, you know, essentially allows you to use Dark Jack to send out a rather powerful projectile that does it is quite useful actually. I tend to use it like towards the end of the game. It can be useful against certain enemies, as we'll see later on. There are some very frustrating enemies towards the end of the game. There, I just want to pick all that up because that's never a bad thing. So obviously in this mission we've obviously got the health of the Dark Eco plants on the right hand side of the screen. You just got to essentially make your way through the level, find where the plants are, and then just drive over them. When you're green ecoed up, the small orange little creatures, I don't think they can do any damage to you when you're green ecoed up. Didn't want to forget that, so there we go, cool. So, we'll continue to make our way around here. I think we've only got really this section left. Nice. So there's a rather important section right at the end. I think it might actually be the last section that we've got to do, which is essentially climbing up a large spiral path. Yeah, so it's essentially just around here, up this path. And the last few are just over here, I think. This should be it. There we go. Cool. Don't quite know why we're occasionally getting those black screens in the middle of cutscenes, but certainly not something that I, meant. So, as Saint-Amos alluded to that. So as Torn says, we've now got another a mission here with Jinx, but Jinx is a great character. He was involved in the, he was one of the 3 men you escorted when you did escort men through the sewers in Jack 2. He was one of the 3 men there who helped blow up Mars. Who helped blow up the statue of Mar and find the heart of Mar within inside. But no, yeah, going back to what Samus was saying, essentially, he was talking about the various, what was it? He was talking about some artifacts, or several artifacts which unlocked wondrous truths within an ancient tower. And essentially the tower is located within Haven Forest, and the wondrous truths is what we'll see later on. This mission isn't really too bad. All you've got to do is just ensure that, you don't take any damage from the vehicle, stuff like that. It's really not too difficult. It gets tougher once you enter the Crimson, the KG robot part of the map, just because they obviously have far more ranged weapons than the metalheads do, and as such, they can hurt Jinx from much further away, which can be obviously an issue. Just quickly grab this, why not? Come on. You getting in? Good. Late. So we'll continue to make solid progress through this mission. Oh, is that it's done?
Sweet eco, Jack, you did it. You got us deeper into KG territory. Nice work, Jackie boy. I'm gonna go see what I can scrounge up. See you on the flip side.
Indeed, we will see Jinx later on. I thought there were 5 to that, but evidently only 4.
Jack, we've got word of a shipment of eco being delivered somewhere in the KG city section. I think it's worth stealing. I want you to go in and find the vehicle with the eco, and drive it back out to the naughty axle in one piece. I'm sure they'll try to stop you, but we need that eco for the war effort. Remember, don't leave the shipment intact.
So, we're now going to do a mission all about... So we've got to hijack an eco vehicle, essentially the mission that Ashlyn is just talking about. And this mission is probably, in my opinion, the most difficult one. I really dislike this mission. It's really not easy. So you pop into here, and essentially, they fire off some heat-seeking missiles. And this vehicle controls like no other vehicle you've had in the Jak and Daxter series. It's really, really twitchy. It's really, really easy to crash. And essentially, if you hit anything, the missiles that are currently very closely behind me will catch up and will blow up the vehicle. The other thing about it is that if you make too tight a turn, at any point, you will... Okay, for some reason I died there, I don't know why. I think that was because I probably went over the edge of the the edge between the pavement and the port too fast. So yeah, so essentially what you've got to do in this section is you've got to shoot at these decoys, get them raised, and then lead the missiles to them. But you can't make any sharp turns whatsoever. Because if you make sharp turns, then your vehicle slows down too much. Ah, missed it. Damn it. Missed my chance. I really hate this mission. This mission is not easy. And I think the worst thing about it is that if you fail, I think you have to restart it all the way from the port section. So you get no respite in that sense. I don't know how I'm going to get to this one. I think it's too tight if I try and get around from here. Yeah, that's too tight. Gonna have to do it another way. Ah, man. Oh, I forgot you got a timer as well. Yeah. So you've also got a timer. I completely forgot about the timer on this mission. But there we go. Okay, so 1 minute 30 to do all this crazy stuff. I'm trying, Dex. I'm trying. I know, Dex. I know. Okay, so we've got two more missiles to try and get rid of. You'll notice that there are 3 following me, but obviously we only have two more decoys.
You can make it. Crank that sign before it rains. Hang on, Dax. It's gonna be close.
I do love Daxter's reaction to that one. So yeah, so essentially, as you saw, I headed over straight to the Naughty Oxel. I knew that that was what I needed to do in order to finish that mission. So yeah, just nice and simple. So we'll head into here for yet another Torn mission.
Jack, we got word of a new assault on the port. They're trying to take us out once and for all. The strange thing is, we're seeing movement from both the KG and Metalhead fronts. It's like they're working together. We've got to repel this assault or we're through. I hate to do this to you, but I'm putting you on the front line. You're my go-to guy. Stop any KG or Metalhead units from reaching this place. If we lose this one, we're history.
So this is a very odd little mission. So essentially, you do get control of which weapons you have. Essentially, you pick up random weapons off the ground, and you've obviously got you've continually got this sort of weird top-down view of the action that you don't get in any other mission in the game. And you essentially continually transfer between the various areas in the in this level. So obviously here I've only got the blaster, and then you only get ow! Was that one of the soldiers shooting me? It must have been. What the hell? And obviously the weapons that you do pick up have limited ammo, so you can only use them a set amount of time. This is the arc wielder, so the second of the blue Vulcan Fury weapons. Oh, this one's particularly annoying. So we've now got to protect the civilians. So. Oh man, I missed one of the weapons. That's annoying. Ow. Thank you for the health. I actually needed that. It's just an entirely different game. Like, it's like a level where they just completely rewrote the rules. And obviously protecting civilians is pretty annoying. So obviously one of them suffered, one of those civilians suffered, but we got through it in the end. This last one's slightly easier, essentially we only have to deal with a couple of blast bots, I believe. Or eventually, yeah, there we go, there's a blast bot. But we do get some Freedom League soldiers to help out, to come in to help out. So you notice that essentially the blast bot's beam will essentially follow you for a certain amount of time. When it turns full red, it'll stop. You don't want to let it touch you, the blast ball is. Okay, and then when it gets down to a certain level of health, you can deal a huge amount of damage by firing its bombs back at it. So that's going to explode. Lovely. I think we get another one. I'm pretty sure there's another one. Yeah, there is. Okay. But I think this one we do get a bunch of Freedom League soldiers all come and help us out. They'll do their best to help us out, I guess. There we go, so that one destroyed, and that is this mission done and dusted with its very weird rule set. So we're going into the next gun course, the next gun course mission.
Dexter, my hero! This city is too dangerous. We need our own little place in the country. A little pink house with a white picket fence, and a fireplace, and a big four-poster bed for me, and a little oxel run on the side of the house for you. Aw, are you worried about me, my little pussy? Of course, my itty-bitty whiskered puss.
Oh, please. You two take it outside.
We need a hug, Cat, because we got plenty to go around. Rumor is, you two are the only hope we've got to reach the catacombs. I programmed the gun course to simulate some of the new enemy tactics. Want to try it out?
So this is the harder of the two gun courses. Essentially, because it requires the red gun, and because I haven't bought the increased rate of fire for the scatter gun, I'm probably not going to be able to get the gold score on this one. So what I'm going to do is I will actually essentially just try to get to the end of this one as soon as possible. There we go, lovely. I always think an important thing about these sort of missions is to remember that you can always melee the enemies. Okay, nearly there. There we go, 11. Cool. Let's go down there. There we go, lovely.
Not that shooting, Dark One. Here's a nice boomstick for your sidekick, baby. Go give him hell, boys. Then come back, and I'll scratch you behind your ears.
So we get the Plasmite RPG, which is an awesome weapon. Essentially, it fires a rocket-propelled grenade. Does a huge amount of damage. Just a really good weapon overall. It does use 10 ammo though, which is what really, I guess, is its only drawback, is that it's very expensive on the ammo front. But there you go. So, we're back. You can see that I'm continuing to do all the Haven missions first. We will eventually obviously have to use the transport to get back to Spargus.
We may have a way to reach Freedom HQ. Jinx here has a plan.
Hey, Jackie boy. Long time no see. I think you got a boomer of a plane. You know those nasty blast boxes sitting around? Well, I captured one. Don't ask. I'll show you the scars later. I've rigged that baby with a remote control and even more explosives than the standard baggage.
Jack, link it to the remote and direct that blast bot into the KG area. If you can get the blast bot close enough to the Freedom League border and blow it up, it should punch a hole in the defensive line there and allow us to hook up with our comrades.
So, we've got the mission where you have to steer the blast ball. And now, this mission I really enjoy, but I've heard from a lot of people that they think that like this is literally like the worst mission there's ever been. And it's, they find it much harder than I do. Don't know why. To me, it's just a large amount of sort of just firing over and over again and ignoring most of the things behind you. So obviously we've got our health down the bottom, the green bar. Now, the big things to worry about are other blast bots. They do a huge amount of damage if you let them. But you can do a lot of damage to them very quickly. So I used to believe that the best way to do this mission was to actually take the blast bot up onto the higher layers, i.e. To walk along the top. I want me to take out that blast bot. Go on, there we go. It's really the other blast bots that you've really got to be worried about. They're the ones that really do the most damage to you in this mission. So every time you see one, you've just got to absolutely nail it. And concentrate on it more than anything else. But you can see that we do damage faster to them than they do to us. Thankfully. So we'll continue to make pretty decent progress. You don't need to get pretty far into this now. All we've got, I think, are a couple more blast bots, and I think we're done. So there's obviously the next one over there. I think we get 2 around this last area, so you just got to be aware of that. There we go, and now we've reached the final boundary. And goodbye. Lovely. That went really well. That went really, really well.
Great job. We can link up with the Northern Front now. I'll get on the horn at HQ and give them the good news. You're the man, Jack. You are the man.
And being the man, we get a peacemaker as our reward, which is obviously a pretty awesome thing. So, now, we are going to take now we can take the transport over. We're essentially going to, we're now going to take the transport over and go back to Spargus, really. And I think we're probably going to call the episode to an end once we get over there, or maybe once we get the first cutscene over that area. Obviously, you know, basic cutscene of him going into the transport, stuff like that. Do you know anything about the Spargus thing? Is that it does drop you off outside, so you do obviously have to deal with a few marauders. I think the first mission we get here is about collecting artifacts, so let's have a look. So yeah, there we go.
Sure. I can race with the best of them.
Good. Take the vehicle and bring us back some food. You know the drill. Get to the artifacts first and then yours to claim. Baseline to run. Go get 'em.
But we are not going to do that right now. We are going to call this episode to an end right here as we prepare for essentially the second finding artifacts in the Wasteland mission. We've done a lot of... I love the idea that sort of Jack comes back into the city, and then in the amount of time it's taken, obviously, you know, I don't know how the time relates to how long you play, but you then, as Jack, what you do is you then break the barrier to the Metalhead nest. You break 3 barriers within the Crimson Guard zones. One with the missile with Daxter, one by blowing up the junction boxes with Jinx, and the third one by controlling the blast bot. You do all 3 of those, and then you completely annihilate the barriers between you and getting all the way back to talk to Ashlyn back at Freedom HQ. You do all of that so fast, it's brilliant. Just goes to show what a hero Jack is. But there we go, now another really successful episode. Got through most of the... I will say those are the fun missions of this chapter, I would say. Some of those missions I really enjoyed. We now get all of the vehicle missions of this chapter, which are the ones obviously on this side of the transports, you know, around the desert with Spargus, with Deimos, and all these other characters. So we're going to have to deal with that. But no, I'm really looking forward to getting back, you know, once we get through all of these missions, then we've really broken the back of Act 2, and then we'll be very close to actually starting Act 3 and really, you know, getting towards the end of this already. It feels like it's zipping by so fast, but ultimately, when you can play, when you know exactly what's going on in most of the levels and you're playing it this fast, yeah, it just zips by. But I hope you have enjoyed this episode of my Let's Race of Jak 3, and I hope you will join me on the next, where we will be hopefully completing all of the Spargus missions, and then hopefully we'll have had the chance to travel back to Haven and continue to fight the good fight over there. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you will join me on the next.